Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 396 of How Do You Write? I'm Rachael Herron. So thrilled that you are here with me today as I am talking to PD Workman, who is a beast, a legend. You're going to love this episode. It's rad. I'm also not going to do much of an update right now because I'm just pushing out an extra episode because I'm trying to get a little bit more caught up. So I'm not so far behind when people come to my show. Then they don't have to wait months for their episode to go live. That is my goal right now. So I'm just going to do something, which is play a reader question for you and then answer it. See, I forgot I had this thing, so I forgot to check it. And I've only ever mentioned it once. If you are a patron of mine at the $5 level a month and up, then I am your mini coach and you can ask me any questions. You already know that. But you can also send them in to me with a voice recording and then I will play it on the air. That is at rachelherron.com/record. rachelherron.com/record. If you are a Patreon member, you can always join that. You could go look at it right now. There's tons of perks for writers. Rachel Herron, no, yeah. What is it? Patreon.com/Rachel is where that is located. So I'm going to play this real quick and then I'm going to come back and answer it.
Hey, Rachel. I did not know that we could do voice notes. I would have sent in questions a million years ago if I knew we could have done voice notes. Okay, so hi, I'm Jillian. I've been a long time listener since like 2017. I was also a listener of the Writer's Well. So whenever you guys update that, I'm one of the people that's like, so as I have questions. So as we're ramping up for NaNoWriMo, we're like less than 2 weeks away. I want to know what you do for yourself for NaNoWriMo, what your hot tips are. And in the vein of the Writer's Well, I also want to know what your current morning routine is, because that's one of my favorite episodes. Also, the episode about what your poop is like, life-changing. But I want to know what your morning routine is currently and what you're doing for Nano, because I am deep in the trenches of Preptober, and I'm at the point where I've plotted the novel some, but now I just want to like do treats for myself for the future. So let me know. Thank you so much. Bye. This is Jillian from Texas. Bye.
Jillian, that is so funny. And I am so sorry that I did not see this before Nano started. I have an email to myself that comes in every month that says, check this site, which is rachelherron.com/record, where you can record. And there has never been a message there. And so it goes a month, and then this was 2 weeks late, and Nano had already started by the time I saw it. But I will. You made me laugh with the poop. We're not going to talk about poop, but that was hilarious. We did talk about it on the Writer's Well. But I will answer really quickly how I prep for Nano, because it is the same way I prep for books, any kind of novel, whether I am doing Nano or not. First of all, I always start with character arc because I write character-driven books. And if I'm being really honest, I think most of us write character-driven books. Even people who are excellent plotters, who have tons and tons of plot and tension and high stakes, all of that plot and tension and high stakes, they only matter if we have characters that matter. So I start with character and I think about how they've been hurt in the past, what that makes them hide, what they show to the world in order to keep that hidden, and then finally, what they really are, who they really are. So that is an entire character arc. I want them to move from being one thing in the beginning of the book to being something else at the end. It does not have to be an opposite thing. They don't have to move from being completely closed to completely open. That's fine. That's a great character arc, but it doesn't have to be that. What I like to think of it more is they move from one set of character traits that have helped them live in the world, survive in the world, to a set of character traits that is stronger and better and more authentic to who they are. And once I've figured that out for my main character, or main characters if I'm writing multiple points of view, then I usually have some kind of a premise for the book, like what if this happened? And then I always forget that plot actually needs to go farther than that. It has to be more than just the beginning. The ones who matter most, the premise was, oh, I can't remember her name. doesn't matter. Was it Abby? I think she was one of my two Abigails. I think her name was Abby, whose husband dies in the first chapter. She's a young widow. And then she finds out he has a whole other family on the other side of town. Who is that family? What did they get of him that she didn't? And what has she been missing? So she finds out that her husband has another family. And then I was like, that's a book. And then I sat down to write. I'm like, oh no, it needs a plot now. So normally I have a what if premise. And I like to, because I'm a discovery writer, I like to fly by the seat of my pants. I like to think of only a few things. I like to think of the inciting incident, which for that book would be when Abby decides to go try to find this family. She's making that decision to go into that new world. I like to think of the context shifting midpoint, right in the middle of the book where something changes that makes our main character understand what she wants in a whole new different way, going topsy-turvy. And then I like to kind of know the dark moment. What is it that this character can't lose? I need to start to plan to take it away from her. And that's all I know. And then I start writing. Usually nowadays, as I write, I'm keeping track of what I have written in a little spreadsheet. And I normally, when I finish work for the day, I like to think about the next couple of scenes that are coming. So I'm kind of moving my way through the book via flashlight, but I cannot see all the way to the end of this tunnel of this book. I can only see the next couple of scenes, and that is enough for me. So that is how I prep for Nano, and that is how I write my books. Thank you for asking. Current morning routine. Oh, you know this is catnip for me, right? I love to think about routine. My current morning routine is so delicious. I absolutely love it. I get up at about 6:15 or 6:20. I wash my face, do those kind of things, make myself a cup of tea. And then at 6:30, I sit down on my computer and I go to one of my online secret society meetings for recovery, otherwise known as AA. Not supposed to say it, but there I said it because I break my own anonymity only. So I do that for half an hour, 6:30 to 7. I'm hanging out with friends on Zoom that way. And then I sit down and I really try to do it in this order every day. And then of course I don't, because I don't have high discipline, but I did this morning and it was awesome. This is the way I like to do it. I like to leave that meeting and then I go have 10 minutes of meditation. And then I do a little bit of stretching and then don't laugh, but I pull 2 tarot cards for the day. One tarot card shows me the mirror and one shows me the medicine. So I can't really get a bad reading. I can't get a scary card because medicine card is just going to tell you how you can make this day better. So today I pulled for my mirror card, I pulled the Empress, which means I am a garden. I am full of growth. I am full of potential. And I feel that. I feel that in my mirror soul. That's what I really am today. And then my medicine card was the 7 of Cups, which basically says, don't try to do all the things. Don't try to make the best decision. Just pick something and do it. Don't try to fool yourself that you can do all the things. Oh, that's a good medicine card. That's a good advice for me. So then I sit down and I spend 20 minutes journaling, doing a little bit of morning pages with that same cup of tea, which is now cold. And then I have breakfast and I feed the dog her breakfast. And so by now it's like 8. And then this is what I really like. I have been sitting on the couch with a book and my second cup of tea. After I have my breakfast, I sit on the couch with a book. It's a paper book. It's got to be a paper book. I have tons of paper books that I want to read. And at night, I read my Kindle, but during the day on my breaks, I read a paper book and I just sit there for a while. And then by 8:30 or 9, I go to the desk and I start working for the day. But isn't that fun? Doesn't that sound amazing? How lucky am I that I get to do that I get to choose to not even start writing or teaching until 9. And I get to fit all of that stuff in. And by the time Lala wakes up by 9, I am in a tremendously good mood. I've had so much fun already. I've had some deep thoughts. I've already hung out with some friends. It's good, y'all. And it really sets me up for the writing, for the teaching, for whatever I need to do that day. So that is my current morning routine. Thank you for asking, Jillian. Thanks for being the first person to do that. So anybody who wants to can go leave me a message. That would be awesome. All right, let's jump into the interview now with PD. Here is a bio. PD Workman is a USA Today bestselling author, winner of several awards from Library Services for Youth in Custody and the InD'tale magazine's Crowned Heart Award, and has published over 100 mystery, suspense, thriller, and young adult books. She's currently at 103, I happen to know. Workman loves writing about the underdog, who the reader may love or hate. She's been praised for her realistic details, deep characterization, and sensitive handling of the serious social issues that appear in all of her stories, from light, cozy mysteries through to darker, grittier young adult and mystery/suspense books. You're going to dig this interview. Please stick around. Here we go, and happy writing to you. Well, I am so glad to welcome you to the show today. May I please have your name and pronouns?
Yes, I'm Pam Workman. I write under the name PD Workman and she and her.
Thank you very much. I invited you on the show in an interesting way. I found out about you and your writing from sharing a space often with you that we call Oh Right. And Oh Right is one of those places where you can go, and I've talked about it on the show before, you can go and write with other people. They can't see your work. You can't see theirs. And you copy and paste your work out when you're done, but you can see, basically, you can kind of see the cursor moving. You can see how people are writing and that they're writing. Yeah. And perhaps you can see that they've perhaps walked away from their desk for an hour or so. But when I was in there more earlier this year, but it seemed like you were always in there, always in there. And I finally went and Googled, and I was so impressed with your productivity, with your prolificness. And I would love to talk to you about, first of all, let's just start with Oh Right. How did you find out about Oh Right and get in there?
Just searching for a new place to sprint. I tend to go one place and then eventually it peters out and people go somewhere else. So then I look for a new place to go sprint. And so that was just the next one that was on my list. So just was Googling places to sprint.
That's awesome. Have you ever heard of the London Writers Hour?
I don't think I've heard of that one. No.
That one might be a good one too. That's a Zoom one, and it happens 4 times a day, all through the day. So all time zones work. And
Okay. Yeah.
I've been enjoying that one recently because I also do very, very well with sprints. Can you tell us about your writing process? What does it look like? Where, how much, all of that?
Okay, sure. So yeah, I start a new book on the first of each month, unless the first happens to be a Sunday, and then I start on the second, like I did this month. And then depending on which series it is that I'm writing in, then I write either 5,000 or 6,000 words per day. And that's split up over 3 sessions, one in the morning, one at noon, and one in the evening. And so
Wow.
right now I'm writing in my medical kidnap files series, so I'm writing 6,000 words a day, basically split between 2,000 morning, noon, and evening.
Wow. Okay, my brain is exploding and I want to go so many different directions with this right now. So I think that a lot of us have stories about how much we can write. And I tell myself that I tap out anything over 4,000. I can't speak for the next couple of days. But I also know that that's a story I tell myself. Have you always written a lot, or did you work your way up to that amount?
A little bit of both. I've always been, a fast writer and pretty prolific. Not as prolific as I am now, but even when I was starting out years ago, I would still write several books a year. So that was pretty normal. But yeah, just it's probably 5 or 6 years now that I've been doing 5,000 to 6,000 per day, and so that's kind of where I'm used to. And then that, by doing that, then I'm generally finishing my first draft around the 19th to 21st of the month, and then spend the next week on my first set of edits and on planning and researching for the next book, and then doing second edits on the book that I wrote last month.
Oh
So
my
that's
goodness.
so I'm
So
generally I'm
yeah.
writing for 2/3 of the month and then editing and planning for the next third. And I write
So
6 days a week, so it's every Sunday off as well.
Do you plan then for your edits to come in from the editor during that time when you're not writing? Like, and that's when you do the second set? Is that what that means?
Yeah, he generally sends me back my edits around the 25th of the month, so it generally comes in during that period. But if it doesn't, then I'll do those edits while I'm writing. But I've it takes me 6 to 8 months from first draft to publication.
Mhm.
And so if I'm writing a book a month, then that means I've got 6 to 8 books on the go at a time in various different stages.
Actually, that makes so much more sense to me because sometimes I hear people say, a book a month, and I wrongly assume that they're publishing the book that, just came out of their pen like the month before. And I always think, how can they
Yeah.
possibly find the time
Yes.
to
Some
do
people
the
do that, and
covers? And I know,
yeah,
I know.
some people do that, and I can't do that. There's no way that I could have all of my edits done. Well, I mean, some people who do that, they don't even do edits. They just,
Right.
you
Right.
know, they write clean and push it out, and that's
Yeah.
that. But I do, maybe 4 or 5 edits before it goes out. And yeah, cover and stuff is usually pretty good because I usually do the cover at the same time as I'm planning out the book, and then just review the cover a month later and go, okay, yeah, that's still good, or no, that just doesn't fit my story. I gotta scrap it and start over, or change something, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it has to go through the pipeline for me. It's not just,
Yeah.
okay, today's the 19th, I finished my book, published it on the 21st. No. No, I
So
still have to go
I
through.
I assume that you are a plotter, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I am now. The first several decades that I wrote, then I was totally a pantser. And if I would ever try to plot a book, then my brain would say, "Okay, now I know what's happening in this book. I don't want to write it."
Yeah. So how
And
did you change
so I
that?
had to train. I had to train myself that yes, I could. I could plot even though I knew what was going to happen or knew one big thing that was going to happen, because I don't always. My third act, I write mostly mysteries right now, and my third act is usually, and they solve the mystery, no more detailed than that.
Right.
So
Right.
I haven't always decided ahead of time who it was or that kind of thing. So I still do a lot of writing into the dark that way. Um, but yeah, I had to train myself and go, okay, well, one thing that I really enjoyed doing after I've written a book is going back and writing some backstory for that character, or writing some missing scenes or things like that. Just fun stuff that's never actually going to make it out to the readers that I just want to explore. Said, okay, if I can do that, if I can go back after the book is finished and write what happened before that, then listen to me, brain. Yes, you can write even though you know what's going to happen next. And
Oh, I
so
like
I
that.
managed to convince myself and train myself that yes, I could still enjoy writing the book even though I knew something about how it was going to end, whether it was a plot twist or whatever.
Well done.
But I did actually have to convince myself of that because I didn't believe it. I just figured, oh well, yeah, now I'm bored with this. There's no more creativity involved, and I don't
Right.
want to write this book because I know what's going to happen. So I
What
had to change
what
that.
is
So now
your
I do
yeah.
plot generally. It's not a scene by scene plot, and like I say, the third act is often pretty open. But I do have, the general beats and that kind of thing, and then go in and fill. And part of my morning routine is, writing longhand about what it is that I'm going to be writing today. So that
Ah,
gets down to some more detailed planning for
yes.
the day so that I'm ready and kind of framed for that day.
I feel like that's one of those s- secret superpowers when we harness that thinking about the work for the day and getting our
Mm-hmm,
brains
mm-hmm.
excited for it that can carry us far. What are you doing in between the time? So you have your first writing sprint in the morning and then your next one at noon, next one in the evening. What are you doing in between those writing times?
So in the morning after my writing sprint, then I do work for the lawyer uh, that I worked for 30 years. He's no longer a practicing lawyer, and actually I started publishing books for him. And so now he's a writer, and so
Oh, wow.
I work on his correspondence and editing and swag and fulfilling orders and things like that, and maintaining his website and things like that for him. So that's 1.5 to 2 hours. Then lunch and walking the cat outside, and then dive into my next writing. And then after the afternoon one, sometimes I have errands to run or people I have to go see. If I don't have to do that, then I've got, blog posts, newsletter, marketing, my storefront, and things like that. Then I have my second workout of the day and supper, and then back to my next sprints for the evening, followed by some sort of in-office stuff that I have to do, lower priority stuff, but stuff that I still need to be in my office for. And then after that, then I'm together with my hubby, sit down, watch TV while I do some of the really shallow work, uh, scheduling social media, working on covers, editing my website, things like that, some of the accounting and that sort of thing. And then, that kind of runs me up to bedtime, and then it starts again the next day.
You need that Sunday by the time it rolls around. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I'm sorry, I'm so fascinated by all of this. What is your pace like? Are you a 2000 word an hour kind of person, or faster,
Only if
slower?
I'm really in the groove. If I'm
Yeah.
really in the groove, then yeah, I can get 2000 done in an hour, or even more if it was really, really good. But generally it's sort of a 1000 to 1500 per
I'm
hour.
I'm
So I
reliable
spend so
1400. Yeah.
each of my sprint periods is generally like 1.5 to 2 hours. Sometimes I can only fit in an hour, and then, I really have to push myself, turn on my timers and that kind of thing, and really try to push it through.
Do you ever or have you ever struggled with burnout with the pace?
I haven't. I've been able to keep this pace. Like I said, it's been like maybe 6 years now
Uh,
that I've been working at that pace. I do 12 to 14 books per year,
well, that means it, and you're being
and that's been
sustainable then.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I've been able to, like I say, it's 6 days and then a rest, and it's, sprinting for 2/3 of the month, and then editing and planning and that kind of thing. So those built-in rest periods, I think, make a difference, and that my sprint periods are broken up too. I've talked to some other
Yeah.
writers about that who say, I don't know how you get that many words done in a day. Well, I don't do it all in one block. Like doing all of that in one block, yeah, that's absolutely exhausting. But if you're doing 1,500 or 2,000 words in a block, that's quite a bit more manageable. And I make myself stop at the end of that. So, um, before I had a set pace or a set quota per day and was just kind of free writing. My longest day I think was 13,000 words, and
Oh,
that was basically writing all day, and it was going to a couple of different meetups and things like that. It was during Nano, and so I had some groups to go to and that kind of thing. But I didn't do anything else that day. Now that this is my business, and this is supposed to be a sustainable pace, I have to be able to fit the other work in as well.
mhm.
So even if I'm, really in a good groove, I may write a little bit extra in a sprint period, but I know, okay, it's 11:30. I've reached my 2,000 words. I need to go on and do whatever else is on my schedule. So that
That sounds
also leaves me time to do those other pieces of the business that I need to work on.
that sounds that sounds manageable. And also you sound like you're an amazing project manager. It sounds like you're really good at that part of it. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to writing?
Uh, well, I think that the biggest challenges are not the writing itself, but in the business. I would say the two A's, accounting and advertising.
Yes,
Those are
yes.
not my fun places to be.
What advertising do you do right now? Are you Amazon, Facebook?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of each, and some book club and then of course, regular social posts and that kind of thing. Um, and I recently uh, did a Shopify marketing course, so that's helping me now to kind of reframe my advertising copy and how I do the advertising and that kind of thing. So I'm sneaking back into Facebook advertising again and hoping that it won't just eat up all of my money, but that I'll be
Yeah.
able to get something out of it now that I've kind of learned a little bit more about proper marketing and advertising copy. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed on that.
And the nice thing about Shopify is that you can optimize for conversion rather than just for
Hmm,
click.
hmm.
Did you do the
Yeah,
Morgana
yeah.
course or was it somebody else?
No, this was one. I can't even remember the name of the guy, but he was actually doing training locally in my city. He
Oh,
goes from
cool.
place to place doing these courses, and of course, they want to get you into their program. But it was 3 hours of really good training
Yeah.
as to how to write proper marketing copy and that kind of thing. So I
Very
really
cool.
got something out of it, but it wasn't an in-person thing. And took my husband to it and sat in a room with 100 other people and did that. So
Were they all writers? Does he specialize in writers or was
no,
it for Shopify?
no,
Yeah.
it was for Shopify.
I
So it
think
was
that's even more
specifically,
interesting.
yeah. Well, I thought, I hear, I'm a part of all of the different writing groups, and I hear what is said over and over again in
Hmm.
the writing groups, and what Morgana is saying and what some of the others are saying. But I don't hear a lot from just marketers or just people that are focused on Shopify or that kind of thing, that the things that work no matter what your product is.
Hmm.
So yeah, there were people selling clothing and foods and services and artwork and all
Oh,
different
that
kinds of things.
is very cool. My wife is putting together my
Yeah, it was.
Shopify now. So we've been talking a lot about this. And she is a front end web developer. So she's used to selling things that aren't books as well. So we've been looking at all the different Shopify accounts. Like there's
Hmm,
just there's
hmm.
just some that
Yeah,
are incredible. Okay. Well, that was awesome. What is your biggest
yeah.
joy when it comes to writing?
I like, starting a new book, getting really excited about it as I plot it and start to put together and then jump into it. Like I say, I start at the first of each month. So this, the first is just hovering ahead of me, and my family knows I started on that day, and some of the different writers I work with know that I start on that day, and just jumping into it. And then, I also like to finish it and go through and edit it and see how good it was. And after I publish, I still go back and read it again later and that kind of thing. And I love hearing from readers who enjoyed it, talking about what they liked or about the characters. Oh, I love, the way this character is developing or what they did in this one, or I'm worried about this. Or, you're gonna write more about that, right? Just hearing that feedback of, I'm in your world and I'm loving your world
Oh,
and you know, to know that you're impacting somebody that way.
that's lovely. Can you share a craft tip of any sort with us?
So I thought about this one for a little while because a lot of times what you hear is, write every day or take this course or read this book or that kind of thing. So mine is a little bit different, and that is that everybody is different. Our brains all work differently. We follow a different process, travel a different journey. So your path will not be the same as someone else's. You may write a completely different kind of book than any of your author friends have written. And so my advice is don't stall. So if you're world building before you write your book, don't just keep building and building and never write the book. Don't stall out. And if you're
Mhm.
writing and you get to the saggy middle and you're bored with it and you think it's awful, don't stall, keep writing, finish the book. And same with if you're anxious about publishing, whether it's your first book or your 50th, and just take that step forward. So as long as you keep taking one more step forward and don't stall out and give up, so you're making progress, then you can keep moving forward.
That's beautiful. I was just talking to Jenny Nash earlier, and she said something very close to that. She said the only difference between people who don't publish books and people who publish books are that the people who publish their books. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
They show
And
up and do it.
and I heard
Yeah.
something different, 10 this is October is actually my 10-year anniversary of me publishing my first book.
Oh,
And I
congratulations.
remember reading something on the K boards 10 years ago that was, when, somebody doing a study of writer longevity and the people who are succeeding at writing now or have a number of books out now. Is the one thing that is the same for all of them is that they didn't stop. They kept going. There's lots of writers that drop out after a year, drop out after 2 or 3 years. The people who are still writing 10 years later are the people who didn't stop.
Yeah, it's so
Okay,
simple.
I can do that. I can keep going.
It's simple enough that
And
I
then
could do it.
sooner or later
Yes, yes,
you're gonna get to the place that you want to be if you keep going.
yes.
So yeah.
Oh, thank you for reminding us of that. That's so, so, so important. What is the kindest thing that anyone's ever done for you in your writing career?
Uh, I think it's writing to me and letting me know um, how my writing touched them.
Yeah.
Um, uh, some of the stuff that I've written, some of the young adult stuff I've written, and that kind of thing is gets into some really deep and personal issues and challenges that people go through. Some really difficult issues around abuse and addiction and things like that. And to have somebody write to me and say, this series is why I'm still alive, you know, this series and reading about this person is why I kept going. I figured if she can keep going and get through that, then I can too. So something like that is just,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
really touching. Yeah, yeah, just
And
amazing.
that they took that time to tell you that. They didn't need to,
Yeah, yeah,
and they
coming
did.
back and telling me because you
Yeah.
can just go on with your life and
Yeah.
not reach out to the people who have touched you, but to take the time and say, and they say, that if you get a personal letter from somebody, then that is representative of 100 other people who didn't take the time to
Really,
write.
I've
So
always
then if
kind
you
of wondered
stop,
that.
yeah, so then if you stop and think, okay, so not only did I help this person that much, but she speaks for 100 other people,
Wow.
and think, okay,
That's
it's something I need to keep doing.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gorgeous. Wow, wow, wow. I love asking this question. Um, and I also love asking, what is the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
uh, I think making it a priority and making time for it, even before I was writing with the intent of publishing. I wrote for almost 30 years before I actually started publishing, and just giving myself permission and setting aside time to do it, even when there's lots of other things and lots of other stressful things going on. Take that time to regenerate and to use my creativity and to make something that's totally new. I think that
Yeah.
that that's probably the best thing.
Oh, and it keeps us going. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect answer. What is the best book that you've read recently and why did you love it?
I read a lot of stuff, but I went back over my reading history for the last little while, and the best one was probably High Stakes by Dick Francis. I
Oh,
love Dick Francis. He was a great suspense writer. I'm
yeah.
sad that he's not around anymore to do that writing because I read him a lot as a teenager and then haven't read a lot since then and going back to one of these old books and going, oh man, is he good? He's just as good as I remember him being.
Oh,
His
that's
character
awesome.
development and the imagery and the way that he keeps raising the stakes and just gets you so involved in it. It's just a great writer. Yeah.
I can actually see that in my mind's eye too, because I worked in a little indie bookstore in the early 90s, and I just remember that particular cover being on the shelf and how well it sold, because he is so good. He was so good at his job.
He pulls you in. He just
Yeah.
really,
Oh, I'll have to check
just
that one out.
amazing writing.
Now, can you please shamelessly plug yourself? Where can we find you? And will you tell us, please, about your most recent book or books or whatever you'd like to share?
Okay, you bet. So you can find me at pdworkman.com. You can also find my shop through pdworkman.com. And I'm on most social media as PD Workman Author. And so my most recent publication is book number 21 in the Auntie Clem's Bakery series, Murder Meringue Pie. And it's actually going to be the Binge Books book club read for October. So if you want
Awesome.
to join in reading that one and then talking with me about it at the end of the month, then feel free to do that too. And then the one that I'm working on right now is book number 7 in the Medical Kidnap Files series, which is a young adult suspense and mystery series. And so I haven't written any in that series for quite some time. So I'm excited to be back into that series again too.
And as we are talking, it's the 5th. So I know that you are only a few days into that book now. Now that I know your process.
It's the 4th here.
Oh, right. It's the 4th where you are.
Yeah. Because October 1st was a Sunday, I didn't start until the 2nd. So I've done 3 days, which means that I have 18,000 words down. So
that's amazing. Yeah. I appreciated taking your time anyway, but now I appreciate it even more because I know what you're putting off to do this. So I'm glad it's a short podcast, and it has been an absolute delight to talk to you. You are so inspiring, and I want to go just write all of the things now. Thank you for being on the show. What a joy.
Thank you.